guys, welcome to the start of a new reading vlog. So, we're going to start with romance, and we're probably going to hover in romance, but I have other books to talk to you about this week. So, as of my last reading vlog, Audible Escape is no more. I am filming this on November 4th, and I'm filming this as a distraction because I'm sure by the time you guys are seeing this, things will have hopefully resolved, God I hope so, for the election. It's 6 o'clock, we still don't know, and I'm stressed, and I hate it here, and everything is tense and anxious, and the whole world is just on the edge of their seats right now. So I have basically spent the day ignoring everything and obsessively checking the news. Like, it's just cycling back and forth between obsessively checking the internet and then trying to do something to distract myself and then going and checking again, and it's just... So hey, I'm here to film. I'm here to talk to you guys about books that I've been reading. So, since the last update, I read 2 more books on the Audible Escape package before it went away forever, and they just disappeared. It was very sad. I'm still bitter over it, because the new Plus thing that they have is like crap compared to what we had. So, since I last talked to you guys, I read the first 2 books of the Renegade series by Rebecca Yarros. So I read Wilder, and then I read Nova. And I got to these mainly because I really wanted to read more Rebecca Yarros, because I read the last letter by her, broke my heart into pieces, and then pieced it back together, and I was like, okay, Rebecca Yarros is super cool. I also really like following her. She's a really cool person to follow. She's got a lot of just life experience, and she's like a total sweetheart. She's so cool. So, I read the last letter, and I decided I needed some time before I got into her next one, and I do have Great and Precious Things, her newest release, but it does have a military boot and dog tags on the cover, so I have a feeling that one is also going to stomp on my heart and soul. So, I went into her backlist, and the Renegade series looks a lot lighter, and a lot happier, and more carefree than her military books do. So, Wilder is the first one that I read by this, and this follows... The series essentially follows a group of guys who, in my opinion, resemble kind of like the Jackass guys, but like less douchey. I don't know how to explain it. It follows a group of young dudes. Oh, actually there are girls in the group as well, who just do like ridiculous Daredevil type stunts and are like filming documentaries over it. They all compete in the X Games. When they're like off season, they do this. And it follows a girl who is on a cruise ship. It's like a study abroad type of program where they're like cruising around the world. One, does that exist? Because sign me up for that. I'd go back to college for that in a heartbeat. But she becomes the tutor for the main guy for the Renegades, and it's their romance. And it was what I expected it to be. It was very much kind of like new adult, because they're definitely college age. They're definitely like young 20s, late teens. And it's sexy, and it's fun, and there are some tense scenes. I ultimately gave it 3 stars. I didn't think it was anything amazing, but Yarros' writing is so addictive that, like, you just can't stop. Like, you care a lot about the characters. So, I read that one, I gave it 3 stars, and then I downloaded the second one because I wanted to try and get through all 3 books before it went away, but then midnight happened and they just disappeared. So I did read the second one, which was Nova, which follows another guy in the Renegades, and his kind of second chance romance with the best friend of the girl from the first book, and it was, I think, a little bit better. I think I liked it a little bit more, but I gave both of them 3 stars. They were super addicting, super fun, and fast-paced, but in the end, like, nothing super standout about them, which is fine. That's what I signed up for. So I read both of those, and then November 1st rolled around, because that's when Audible Escape went away. So I did my annual reread of the Scorpio Races. And in case you guys didn't know, this is one of my favorite books of all time. I reread it every year on November 1st because the very first sentence of the book is, "It is the first day of November, and so today someone will die." And I just have to read it on that. And I feel like this is a really good book to reread if it's like one of your favorite stories. I feel like it's a really good time of the year because you're in between holidays, but it gives you kind of like warm, fuzzy feelings. Maybe that's just me. I adore this book. I've talked about this a lot on my channel. One, I'm a horse girl. I've grown up riding my entire life. I've had horses. I've worked in barns my entire life. And this gives me all of the nostalgic feelings of like late nights in the barn during like the cold fall season where like you're just kind of like in a barn listening to horses like munch hay, doing like turnout, and just it gives me those feelings of being that age again where my entire life was horses. All I cared about was riding, and all I cared about was just horse care and everything. So it gives me those feelings, but it also gives me the same sort of nostalgic feeling that rereading like Harry Potter or Narnia or anything like that I read in my childhood gives me. Even though I read this as an adult, this fairly late into like my adult life, but for some reason it just gives me the same feeling as like going home to like Hogwarts does. So going to Thisbe, which is the island this takes place on, just gives me like so many good feelings. I love this book. It's 5 stars every time I read it. In case you guys didn't know, this takes place on kind of like a fantasy island. It's similar to kind of like off the coast of Ireland is like the type of feeling that you have. It's small town feelings. And it follows a girl who is on Thisbe and enters this race that gets hosted every year on this island where people basically wrangle these like demon horses that come out of the sea who are like really, really aggressive. Like they come out of the sea and they just start like killing people and killing animals and herds and everything. And this race basically has people catch these horses and train them and ride them. And it follows a girl who decides to enter her like island pony into this race, and it's intense and it's like fantastical and there's a romance in it and it's everything. I love this book so much. So I did my annual reread. It gave me happy feelings again for the first time in a long time this year. So I'm glad that I picked this up. Let's see. Next. Oh, I finally listened to Well Played by Jen DeLuca, the sequel to Well Met. And that one gave me the same feelings, but for completely different reasons. This is a Renaissance Fair romance. And again, I don't know how new you guys are, but I'm a huge Ren Fair nerd. I've been going for as long as I can remember, and this is the first year that I didn't go. Oh, hey, Albus. And it hurt. It sucked. It sucked a lot. So it was kind of nice to like go to a Renaissance Fair, even in book form. It gave me like my good end of summer, late fall feels without actually having to go. So this one followed basically like friends that we meet in the first book. Are you gonna settle? Maybe. Don't know. Of course, it's just like a romance, but I really liked it because it follows a girl who is kind of where a lot of people that I know are in life. Like the season of life where you're in like your late 20s and you feel like you should have gotten your shit together by now and you just haven't, and you feel lost and you don't like know what to do. And I feel like this is something that just resonates with millennials in general. Like a lot of us are at the point in our lives where we thought that we would have done XYZ things in our lives by now and we just haven't, and we don't know what to do and we don't want to settle yet, but we also don't want to do it hits that phase of life really well. So I loved it. I gave it 4 stars. It was a great happy little story that kind of gave me a glimpse into Ren Fair life when I couldn't go this year. The last book that I have an update for you on in like this little section of the vlog before I check in later on in the week is I started this puppy. So I decided, I knew that I was gonna love this book. One, I've been reading Jennifer L. Armentrout for years at this point. The only books of hers that I haven't read is the Wicked trilogy, which is coming because I know they are filming the movie for Passionflix, so that's my only unread series by her besides this one. So I basically have been seeing this everywhere. Everyone's recommended it to me. I pre-ordered this like when she first announced it during the a Polycon virtual tour thing. She just like dropped this book on us. So I've had this for a long time and I've been saving it basically for when I was feeling slumpy, when I really wanted something to get lost in, because this is fantasy romance. Like Jennifer L. Armentrout is never going to write anything that doesn't include a really good steamy romance in it with really good relationships. So I started this yesterday on election day because I knew that I was going to need a distraction. I've already ordered the second book. Who saw that coming? It's great. I basically knew that this was her version of writing high fantasy, and I totally forgot that there's vampires in this, and I was just like, oh shit, okay, I'm into this. So it started out a little spicy. It's progressing through good relationship building, and I'm digging it. I didn't really know much going into this. I wanted to go in fairly blind because I basically knew I was going to like it. I was just going to trust the process from there. So this follows Poppy, or Penelope, I guess is her formal name, and she is the Maiden, which in this world means she is essentially like this pure being who is prophesized to essentially like ascend and like do something great for her people. I still don't really understand how the whole prophecy thing works. But she's this pure little innocent creature, and she's not actually that pure, so I kind of dig that. Like, she's been training with her guard for a really long time. She's got some, like, kick-ass, like, daggering skills and stuff. It basically follows her when her guard gets replaced by this guy that she ran into in the first chapter of the book, and they had a little spicy scene, so it's obviously going to be their relationship. But in this world, there are things called cravens, which I think are werewolves. I'm guessing it's some sort of shape-shifting monster type things. Like, all I know is you get bitten by them, and you have so long before you turn into one of them, and then you start biting other people. That speaks to my werewolf love and soul. And as I'm kind of going through this, we're starting to get, like, vampire vibes mixed in. So we're getting, like, high fantasy, romance, and paranormal. I'm loving it. I have a feeling it's going to be 5 stars. So that's where I am with my reading. This was a long update. I've been talking a lot, so I will check in with you guys later on this week. Alrighty, I think it's like a week later at this point. I don't remember when I started. That's the ongoing theme for these reading vlogs, but I have a little mini haul that is relevant to the first part of this vlog. I ran to Second and Charles this past Friday to trade in more books, and that means that I always walk out with some more books. But I did really well this time. I think I was just in like a weird funk that day, so I was not in like prime book shopping mode. Like, I was excited to be there, but like nothing was really catching my attention. But I found a copy of Well Played while I was there, which is exciting because now that I've listened to it, I definitely wanted to own it because, well, one, I adore Jen DeLuca and I want to support her. But I got this for less than half price, so that was exciting. And I also picked up Comfort and Joy by Kristen Hanna. I am already switching into Christmas mode, so this was $2.40, so I mean, I got these 2 books, but I feel like I should have included it because I talked about this book in my last update for this vlog. So it is significantly later. I just realized that the last section that I filmed for this vlog was during the election. Things have somewhat resolved. I'm filming this on November 15th. I mean, technically we know that Biden won, but we're not going to get into politics on this video. But for once, I don't feel like an embarrassment as an American. So we've got a long ways to go ahead of us. But technically everything is still not officially called. America's a mess. But I'm feeling a little more at peace than I did in the last video. I don't need to distract myself 24/7 anymore. But as far as reading goes, let's pull up Goodreads because I've finished a lot of things since then. So I've obviously finished From Blood and Ash, and I have also already finished A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire because you don't finish one without moving on to the next one. And I have so many regrets that I chose to pick this up without having the 3rd book out. I don't actually read that many series ongoing anymore. I prefer to wait for series to be completed before I start binging them just because I like to stay in the world. I don't want to have to worry about forgetting things by the time the next book releases. Also, because of the existential crisis that the last scene of that 2nd book has put me through. The next book doesn't come out until April. There's not even like an official release date yet, but tentatively April is very far away. I have not raged from the last line of a book like that one in quite some time. So I don't really know how to talk about the series at this point. I really liked it. It's kind of exactly what I was looking for, but I feel like I missed a lot of it. I honestly want to flip it back over and read right through it, which is rare for me. I very rarely want to start from the beginning and go over it again. Like, my attention span is just shot when it comes to book series at this point. So it's a very rare series that I like it enough to want to stay in the world longer and reread a series. So I think I'm giving both of them 4 stars as of right now. I feel like that potentially could change, but the first book, I felt like I was following it really well, and I loved the I love the spiciness, I love the romance that's introduced to it, and I like the concepts that were introduced to it, but I felt like I was still kind of grasping at understanding what everything was, because it was a lot. Like, there was a lot thrown at you, because not only is it a fantasy world with its own set of politics, but you're also introduced to, like, paranormal things, and I feel like I didn't have a good grasp on the creatures that are in this world, that I feel like are a completely separate thing that I need an info dump on. Like, the world itself, I was getting, it was making sense to me, and then we started introducing all these things. And I think you're supposed to feel a little lost, because Poppy feels a little lost, like the protagonist also is slowly, like, uncovering all the stuff that she never knew about. So I thought going into book 2 that it would be a lot more clear and concrete in my mind as far as, like, understanding what's happening, and I don't feel that way. I thoroughly enjoyed myself the entire time, but I feel like a good portion of both books felt long to me without accomplishing, like, too much. If you hear crinkling, Albus is batting, like, a crinkle ball around, and I don't want to ruin his fun, so that's what you're hearing in the background. But I feel like I should have had a stronger grasp all of the characters and how they all played roles in each other's lives. And I feel like I didn't. And that might just have been me, because I was listening to it and I feel like I wasn't absorbing as much as I normally do when I listen to audiobooks. So again, that might have just been a me problem, but I like it enough to want to go back and actually, like, absorb everything. I feel like my first read-through of Jennifer L. Armentrout books is just trying to get to the sex scenes. So now that I have that out of my system, and now that I know when they are and that they're good, I can go back and actually focus on the plot. That's the type of reader I am, I guess. That's where my priorities lie. So I'm thinking about rereading them. I have both of the audiobooks. I got them on Audible, so I have them pretty much, like, forever to listen to. And I am actually thinking about going through and listening to them again to fully grasp everything, because that last scene hit hard. And I feel like it was a big impact on me for not even understanding a lot of the world. So that's where I am with those. I gave both of them 4 stars. They might potentially get bumped up to 5 based on how my love of this series is going to grow over time, because I have a feeling I'm gonna be obsessed with it. As of right now, though, that's where I'm sitting. All right, the next book that I want to talk about, this may get touchy for a lot of people. I am not a Victoria Schwab fangirl like the rest of BookTube is. I don't have any problems with her specifically. Like, I appreciate her as an author. I just have never connected to her books well. My main thing that I think I've figured out about my taste versus her books is I love her concepts. The ideas that she comes up with for stories and plot lines are fascinating to me. They are some of, like, the coolest concepts that I've ever come across, but I don't like how she executes them. And that is 100% a me thing. I think her books are very plot-based and less character-driven, and I'm a character-driven reader. So I think that's why so many people love her stories, and they just have never really connected with me too well. I appreciate what they are, and I acknowledge that she's a really good, very well-loved author. I've just never fallen in love with her books like other people seem to have. And that all changed with Addie LaRue. I still try her books. She's an author that I want to like, and I've never found a story that has worked with me. This one did. So I picked up The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and I think it was appealing to me because it's a standalone. It was appealing to me because, one, I knew nothing about it going in other than it was a standalone. I heard good things about it, but I knew absolutely nothing about it going in, and I just went in blind, and oh my god, this book is a goddamn masterpiece. I get it now. And I think she just finally wrote a story about characters that I genuinely cared about. And I think that was the difference for me. Not to say that I didn't care about, like, Kel and Lila or August and what's her name from the Monsters of Air. I forget. Like, they were cool characters, but I just never connected with them. Maybe it was the setting. I don't know. This one, though, was so fascinating to me. It's about a girl who, back in, like, 1716 in France, she makes a deal with the devil that she thinks is going to benefit her, but it essentially just curses her with being forgotten by everybody. And it's one of these concepts that I can just think about forever. And I love stories that do that. When they introduce a concept that is something, it reminded me of, Blake Crouch, where he introduced in like Dark Matter and Recursion the concept of like interdimensional travel or memory loss. It's something that like when you expand upon it, you can go in so many directions, and I can just think of all of these parts of this concept for eternity. So this is basically about a girl who nobody can remember her. Like they can literally be talking to her, turn away, and forget that she exists, and turn back around and be like, hi, I'm so-and-so. So that concept, when you start to compound it and like get further into it and explore it further, introduces so many things that are just so thought-provoking and like mind-bending to me that I love it. So part of this curse is she is also immortal. So she has been living for 300 years, and we basically follow her life in like present-day New York City. I think it's 2014. And back in France or across Europe in the late 1700s when she gets cursed. And we basically just get snippets of every day of her life, because she will like sleep with somebody and wake up the next morning in his bed and he has no idea who she is, and she has to accept that. And the things that are brought up in this are stuff that you don't even think about until you're in a story like this. So like she can't ever get a house or sleep anywhere, because if she stays at a hotel, the people at the hotel forget that she booked a room and they come and they kick her out. Or if she stays at like a boarding house or she gets a mortgage, the bank forgets that she signed her mortgage. She also can't ever write her name. She won't ever get like a picture taken of her, because it gets like wiped away. Like when she tries to write her name, she physically can't, and she physically cannot say her name. And she is just this being that doesn't exist to anybody. The second that your mind wanders and the second you're not looking at her, she doesn't exist to you. So it just introduced so many cool concepts. So basically the story follows her in this 300 years that she's been alive, and all of the things that she has had to figure out how to deal with when she goes to a bookstore one day and goes back the next day, and the bookseller remembers her. It's the first person that has ever remembered her, and it is their story. And it was so good. It was so good. And I bawled at the end. Like, it's the first time that I feel like I've emotionally connected to V.E. Schwab's characters. It was so good. It was so good. So, it hit hard. It was a book that I didn't expect to love as much as I did, so I gave it 5 stars. It's at the top of my list for the year. Like, it's making my like top 10 of 2020 books. It's amazing, and I am so gonna get a physical copy of it. So that's where I'm gonna cut this vlog off. I am starting some books tonight, but I will save that for the next reading vlog so you guys can start fresh, because I've been rambling a lot in this video. So that's going to be it for this reading vlog. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know down in the comments what you guys are reading, because I'm always curious, and I will see you guys in my next video.